What is the answer? Purple. Hey everybody, it's me, Becky. I'm going to be doing a book review on Delirium by Lauren Oliver. If you have not read this book, go out and buy it. It is fantastic, absolutely amazing. We're gonna get started. This story follows Lena. I think Lauren Oliver pronounces it Lena, but I like Lena because it looks like Lena to me. And her best friend, Hannah, I pronounce that Hannah because it looks like Hannah. So Hannah and Lena. I'm sorry if you get upset by this. That's how I read it. Also, there's going to be spoilers. Okay, we're going to get started. We're going to talk about some things that make the book realistic, that make it not realistic, reasons why you should get the book because it is just fantastic. Lauren Oliver, in my opinion, is one of the greatest contemporary writers of our time. She writes every day, so she knows how to write well. She has done an MFA program, which for those of you who are English related who might not know, it is basically a master's in creative writing. She knows her stuff. She is just absolutely amazing. There are actually 2 more books in this trilogy, and we are not going to be going over those. So, in this book, Love is a Disease. It's a good idea. The way that she presents it, it works. When you turn 18, you get an operation to eradicate you from love. Because love makes you do, let's face it, irrational things. Like, be angry. Or jump off a building so you don't have to be without this one person. It really makes you do crazy things that I just can't think of right now, but I know that have been written in the book, so you should just all read it. Okay, so when you turn 18, you get an operation to get you away from love. And Lena, she cannot wait to get this operation done. Of course, cliche-ly, she falls in love. With me just reading the little excerpt from the back, you kind of can assume that she's going to meet a guy and she's going to fall in love. So that part was pretty cliche. Although when the guy comes along, you kind of were like, okay, this person, he's going to be it. He was kind of noted on earlier, the evaluation center, with all the cows, which, by the way, I think the whole thing with the cows was a bit unbelievable. Okay, if you can get a whole entire herd of cows into a building, kudos to you. To make them actually run, that's a bit tougher. They all have wigs on and they're kind of like dressed like patients from the hospital. I mean, how do you do that for a cow? How does that not fall off? That just seems really dangerous to me and seems unrealistic. And how does nobody notice? Like, seriously, how does nobody notice? It's kind of ridiculous. So that whole scene I found a bit unrealistic. Going on, she goes to parties which are, illegal because they listen to music that's not approved by the government. Oh no! Oh no, if you actually think about it, it's really cool. There's a part near the middle of the book after she has gotten together with Alex. It is during the summer. She is waiting for her evaluation to come. In the beginning of the book, I believe she has 3 months. Just 90 days until she gets evaluated, or not evaluated, until she gets operated on. So she has 90 days, and she cannot wait, and of course falls in love with Alex. Now she doesn't want to have the operation. She's not really thinking about it, which I think would be something I would do. I wouldn't really want to think about it. I mean, he's making her think outside of the box, thinking, oh, there's actually people out there that the government says doesn't exist. There's people out there who interact with boys and girls, because in this book, you do not interact. You don't touch, you don't talk unless it's something like, I'm sorry I stepped on your foot. You don't interact with the opposite gender until you have had the operation. And the way that you can tell that you have had the operation is you get like a little triangle scar right there. So you can tell, and obviously the scars can be forged, which I'm surprised the government hasn't really thought of. I don't think that they realize that there are people who are smart enough to outsmart them. I think they trust the people that they're like, oh, we have enough fear in them that they wouldn't actually try this. So I kind of think that that's what the government has. Like, it's more damaging for you if you don't follow what we say than it is for you to just do loosey-goosey whatever you want. And I mean, obviously the government is trying to do what's right, but I really don't think they have much room for thought. In the middle of the book, it kind of gets boring after she meets Alex and they have finally become an item and they're together. She's helping her uncle, who she lives with because her mother is dead. Cliche-ly, of course, you have to have an interesting plot that goes with the character, their background information. If you look at all the great TV shows, they have that. All the great books, they usually have something that goes along, interesting background information. No normal person comes from a normal family, whatever that means. So she's helping her uncle in the store. He comes, and I feel like that part is somewhat necessary to the plot because one thing I totally, really hate is when you read a book and like the book's like 300, 400, 500 pages and you have like a girl and you have a guy and they get together by the end of the book, but the book is only like 2 to 3 weeks long. Like at the end of the book or the very next book that comes along, they're like, I love you, and you're like, okay, wait, I just met you 2 weeks ago, how are we even an item so fast, and now you're saying you love me, but oh, I think I love you too. Like, I think that's just completely unrealistic, and I think it's so stupid. In this book, she at least stretches it out for the span of 3 months. When Alex takes Lena to the crypts to show her her mother, okay, great, you get in, I could believe that. That's believable plot. However, I don't know if I would necessarily believe her writing the word love all over and then having that turn into a tunnel that led out. I feel like that's a bit hard, especially if you're in the crypts. Great symbolism, not so realistic. And another thing that's really not that realistic is the very end, how Lena escapes. See, what's the end of the story going to be like? What's that climactic point? Because by the time I had read this book, that I knew that there was a second book out, and I knew that a third book was coming out. So the fact that I know that there's a second book, you're like, okay, what's the next plot going to be? Her escape is probably the most unbelievable thing in this book. It's really climactic. It made my heart just like pound. I was like, what's going to happen next? I definitely thought Alex would make it over, but the fact that he sacrifices himself for her, I think that definitely she means more to him because he has come from the outside, from the wilds. You can really see the dynamic with that. But the fact that he like sacrificed himself for her to get over, very nice, very nice. However, like with all like the cops chasing them and helicopters, I don't even understand how like they didn't shoot them or something of the sort. I don't understand how she was able to get over slamming a motorcycle into a chain link fence to help you get over to knock the electricity out. Okay, I can believe that, but wouldn't that also create some sort of explosion, like explosion? You can get over and then they don't do anything even though she's over. It's like, oh, this little boxing, like we can't do anything outside of our city. We can't go outside of the fence to get this runaway who's doing stuff. I would expect them to go after her. Like, just because she's a foot over the fence doesn't mean that they can't get her, and obviously she is injured. I'm surprised too that she doesn't know where to go. I mean, obviously she is delusional, but like the first time she went with the wilds, Alex was like, okay, here's where the flashlight is, here are the trees that you need to follow. I read this book. It took me a bit longer to actually get into it. Like, I was reading the chapters, a chapter here, read a chapter there, get really into it. It wasn't until like the party scene where she's running away and she gets like clumped on with the dog and it's just like, oh my god, my calf, what's happening? That's actually when I really got into the book, and I did like the rest was just like a fast read, like boom, done with it one day. Where's the next book? I can't believe I have to wait another month for the third book to come out. All this crazy stuff. So overall, I think that this is just an amazing book. I highly recommend it for all of you. I know I had a little naggings of the unrealistic parts, but the majority of the book is actually really realistic. Compared to other books that I have read, I have a lot more unrealistic parts than this book does. And I really think that it's worth your time to read. For the most part, it is great, realistic. The writing is fantastic. The characters you actually believe could be characters that exist, that kind of have, I think, a piece of everybody in them, but not to the point where like, oh my god, I apply for everybody and I'm such a generic and bland character. No, these characters have like personality to them. Like, you should read it. Overall, if I had a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this book a 9. And mind you, I've never read a book that needs a 10. So 8 to 10 is high for me. So the fact that I'm giving this a 9, it really means a lot. I highly recommend that you read Delirium, this wonderful dystopian novel. And we'll see you later. If there is another book that you would like me to review, go ahead and put it in the comment box down below. And may the Schwartz be with all of you. Ciao. Wonderful book. I love it so much that I actually have a hardback copy of it too.